To those online, if there's anybody, we don't know. Welcome to the Generalists 50th episode.
Raz.
Hey, Raz.
Hey, Michael.
Welcome back to the studio.
Back. And we have an audience today.
Yeah, the audience is over here. You guys can't see it on the camera.
Just,
hello, audience. It's a full house in case people can't see. We got people over here. Over here is Borko. Yeah. Let me just kick this off. So when I was in downtime between one of my gigs, moving to another gig, and in full disclosure, I'm an investor in Poddster, and Borko and I had worked together. I was kind of going through what I would call a midlife crisis, even though I'm probably past midlife.
It wasn't a crisis.
It wasn't a crisis. It was desperation, maybe. Trying to figure out, I actually went to like ICF coaching school. I had a bunch of ideas for being a consultant.
You met me.
None of it panned out. I met him on coffee. He LinkedIn stalked me. And then I'm like, I'm going to do a podcast. Like, let's do it. And then I kind of had this idea of I don't want to do it alone. And I think it was on the first or second coffee with him. I'm like, oh, by the way, there's this Poddster thing coming. I'm going to do a podcast. Do you want to join me?
And I said no.
Yeah, you did not.
I said yes.
First date. Yeah, and not a lot of preparation, to be honest with you. And then I kind of told him this theory I have about generalism, which everybody looks at me funny when I talk about it. And I read the book The Range from Epstein. And then I kind of said, you know, Raz, you're a generalist. You probably just don't think of yourself as that one. Then what happened?
I never thought about it as a generalist, but going back to my life, like my first business was actually in the alcohol business. But I merged it together with technology. And then I've been in cybersecurity and then did other stuff. So I told Michael, hey, I'm a generalist. Let's do that.
Yeah, so then that's why we call it the generalist. And the idea is that we think a lot of people in running a business, being an executive, being a founder, VCs, you kind of are a generalist, right? Because you're having to do all these things and maybe you don't label yourself as one. So that's why it's called the generalist. And it also feels it gives us a lot of range in talking to different people and different things. But we kind of have honed in that we think it's a strategy for life, right? This idea of generalism. And that's what we keep trying to double down on getting better at talking to people about. That leads us to episode 1, where, of course, when we started only filming in the studio from day one, that was one of our quality goals. We also we got to talk to Borko as the very first episode because he's, in my opinion, has enabled the Singapore ecosystem around podcasting. And I think hats off to Borko and team for doing that. I think you probably don't want to take credit for it, but I think you should.
You can.
If people were at the Diary of CEO event last week, which is a big name, Poddster was there covering all the events. And you know, I've even messaged the guy who started one of the new things on Steven, and he goes, oh, the Poddster crew, I know them. You've put us all on the map, and I think that's super important. So we just kind of want to revisit. It's been a year and what since Poddster opened? Year and a half?
Yeah, since Singapore.
How's it going?
First, thanks for coming. And I'm as a host. I mean, he's a host of the podcast. I'm the host of the space. So I really want to thank you for taking your time to come. It's been a year and a half now since Singapore opened, and you were here when this was a
I remember when
construction
it was
site.
a dirty construction site, and we were all panicking of whether you'd get it open in time, right?
We couldn't have a coffee. We went to the coffee shop.
Yeah,
outside.
Exactly. Yeah. So back then, I think because I left corporate, I was 2 decades in a corporate, and then suddenly I find myself in a construction site and trying to, that sign over there, Poddster, one of the live wires went down when cement was fresh, and then it shut down the whole floor. Yeah. So there was a lot of
I heard a lot of expletives when I was here in the room.
A lot of war stories from that time. But now looking back a year and a half since we'd done that episode, it was April last year, I think, almost a year and a half. I feel an immense sense of pride for what this ecosystem and everyone around, not just Poddster, but I've seen people consider becoming a creator, part-time, full-time, doesn't matter, just because they saw others do it. And I think that's the power of not the room with 3 cameras. We were never about, let's set up room with 3 cameras. There's a lot of other places or a lot of crews which can set up cameras in your living room and your office. But the reason why Poddster is so why I love this so much and why I think this is powerful is because it enables the ecosystem, and at the end of the day, it enabled you guys to also bring people here and spend time with them before and after the shoots and talk about what you're doing, and then people saw you. And now, no matter how much you think you're big or not big, but people refer to you as well, like, hey, these guys recorded Poddster and I want to start, and what did they do? And then other names like Keith Yap and Keith Power and like all these people who are coming here, and Nicole Lee, and like is so many people who have started and who are just like chugging along, and then on the back of that you see corporates like, oh, we want to do a podcast, like where do we start? And then we talk to corporates about this. So I think you're right in many ways. It did elevate the mindset and the thinking about creating content, especially long form podcasting, but also different forms of interviews and so on. And I think that's probably what I feel I'm proud the most.
So let's go back a bit with learnings, because when you do good things, and it's fun to have successful stories.
You asked me that in the first episode, and when I said it's all crap and I'm tired and it was hard, you're like, but there's got to be something good.
So what did you learn since the first episode? Let's get to the chase.
Yeah. Well, the first couple of months was I recently did a LinkedIn post, and people pinged me and like, was this really like that? Like first month, yes. We had like 2-3 bookings. Like first week we opened, there was no one here. Like, and then one lady came in, shy, booked one session, and the whole first month was 18 shoots total. Last Friday, Token 2049, 18 in one day.
Wow.
And what I think the biggest learning here was, I think we now look at Dubai, which started before Singapore. Like we started Dubai maybe a year and a half or just a year and a couple of months before Singapore. It's a different market. Every market has its own things, right? So Dubai operates in one way, more content creators. Singapore is more corporate, a lot more content creators who are first business owners or first founders and then second content creator. So my biggest learning here is ecosystem and building this word of mouth. Like ads work less in Singapore than in Dubai. In Dubai, ads work and people book themselves in, and we'll get to our software stack later on. But in Dubai, people would find an ad, go there, see the open booking, book directly, show up. That's it. In Singapore, come, see the space, do a tour, come back again with 3 more people, take photos, come back again with 5 more people. So, but once people set on their path, then the retention rate very high, and that enabled us to build probably the stickiest and one of the strongest communities I've seen, where people generally bring others in. When Anusha knows this, when I said, should we replace, I floated the idea of having a barista, even though we don't have money for a barista, but just don't blame me for trying. And she said, no. When people come here, they want to make coffee for their guests, and they come there and they show them the space and they do a tour. And she's like, I'm the host, but actually I don't do the tour because the hosts come in, and like Nicole has done many more tours than I have. So people come in, it's like, let me show you the space. Like, this is room 1, this is called Iris, this is like, and that's the power of what I've learned is like what keeps this place alive, and what I hope, like it's not really replicable. It's hard to make 50 of these, right? Mm. But I think that's what keeping Poddster strong, and that's why I have absolutely, like Scott Galloway says, podcasting is, the future is so bright that you got to wear shades. And it's not just for podcasting. I think this space and this concept has so much potential that you got to wear shades.
Yeah, and I think if you whether or not you're a fan of Steven Bartlett, right? The fact that he, we should ask this because you guys got to host him and stuff. I think he sold out his Star Vista, my understanding. He sold out all of the things that were done, right? And I think it's his first time coming here and doing that. We know some other ones are planning to come next year. I think Modern Wisdom supposedly is coming. Like, tell us about that and like how you guys manage that and what that's kind of done for you notoriety-wise, because that's, to me, that just kind of exploded everything.
When I left corporate, I made a promise to myself to not go and chase people anymore to buy stuff from me, because I hate that, like chasing people and begging them to buy so I can meet my quota. And when we started Poddster, I was always like, if people see value, they'll come. Like, of course, it was slower than I expected, and we do end up, following up with people. But on the back, like Steven Bartlett, no one chased him. No one went in and say, "Hey, Steven, we are Poddster. You mind coming to us?" And absolutely not. Like we knew he was coming, but so what? What happened is people who come here and who record here and who are fans of Poddster, they pulled us in and they said, "Hey, Rachel Lim, founder of Love Bonito, she was like, hey, I'm doing this. You guys want to partner with me on Closer, her brand?" And Sam, you know him, like he came in and said, "Listen, I'm doing this with Vanta and Aspire and these other few folks. You want to come in? I really like you guys and you're the best." So we got pulled in by the ecosystem. We didn't chase Steven. And then there was this funny scene in AWS when one of these events, when there was a question from, Keith was asking the question and said, "Steven, I have a question for you. I'm just starting, I'm growing, and what should I do to make my podcast better?" And Steven said, "Okay, before I go and answer your question, I hope you're doing video, because if you're not doing video, like you're not gonna make it far, you gotta do video." And Keith was so, like that answer was so genuine. He's like, "But I am doing video. I'm recording. I'm using Poddster." Like he was totally shocked.
Steven,
and
what's Poddster?
And Steven was like, "What's Poddster?" And then the whole room started laughing, like literally. Because when I came before him, when I came on stage, I was like, "Hey, everyone, who knows what Poddster is?" Yeah. Half of the room, yay! Yeah. And I think that's the power of us being in a position to work with all these names, not because they're going to make a huge difference. Like I told you, one of the biggest realizations for me was I had, who's familiar with All In podcast? All In podcast, really big. So we had Jason Calacanis here. He was here recording an episode with Balaji. And everyone's like, "Dude, Calacanis." And he took a photo at the Poddster wall. And they're like, "You got to go big."
Yeah, I was irritated that you didn't invite me.
Yeah. And I was like...
Me too.
So then Martin Sorrell, the founder of WPP, and like a bunch of these other folks. And they're like, "You got to feel pumped." And I was like, "Dude, tomorrow morning I got to wake up at 8 and send invoices and I got to get the cleaner in." And like, I don't really care about the big names. I mean, they are contributing to what we do and they're helpful, but it's not going to make a huge difference. And what it will make a difference, and that's why I'm happy, is it's building the ecosystem and it's building credibility for the whole community. To your point, if in Q1 next year, Chris Williamson come and some other guy and the fifth guy and all these people come, the whole ecosystem grows, and that's why, me, like tide goes up, all boats go up. So I'm not competing with studios. I'm not, competing with agencies. Whoever sees value, they're welcome. Yeah.
So for me, takeaway, if you want to build a business, your CAC, your customer acquisition cost, going to be community. Because if you rely on community, it's going to lower your cost. They're going to bring customers. Don't spend your money on advertising. It's not going to work. It's a good takeaway.
If this one, if you build a community, you won't become a commodity. So yeah, I mean, you won't be undercutting others, and you immediately, there's a reason why every month we run a masterclass here, the podcasting masterclass, 2 hours. You've been guests on one of the where we bring in people who have started.
Guilty.
And we don't bring like a Steven Bartlett, because people see Steven Bartlett as like, okay, different league, right? So we bring in people who have started recently.
Bring in the amateurs.
Yeah, and not the amateurs. We bring people who have started and who are showing progress. And then masterclasses, the reason why we run it, by the way, from masterclasses every month, out of 30 people, maybe one comes and records at Poddster. So ROI-wise, not great. But what it helps with is it builds up the credibility of the brand and it grows the market. I don't care if you record at home or you record somewhere else or you tell your neighbor or you tell your coworker that there is this thing, Poddster and podcasting is important and you should do podcasting. That's the power, and that's why community, either through education and learning, either through Pod Club over there. So if any of you are interested in creating content, this is a plug, like you should scan the QR code and join Pod Club. It's a free community that we support in Dubai. There's 600 people, in Singapore 200 people. We invest a lot of effort in the community building. And if you want to, just learn about creating content, join.
So let's talk a little bit, because when we talk to Walter, there's this building things from Singapore, right? And I think in the studio, you're building in Singapore for Singapore, but you guys have moved into another area that I think is exciting, and let's talk about that in next week a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, yeah, I know.
Your shirt. You can open your shirt.
Sure.
Yeah.
So when we started Poddster, we realized that, yeah, the power is in the community and what you can do locally. And obviously, there's a lot of, like when people ask me, how do you scale and run 15 studios and what's the success of running this, is not, 3 cameras in a room. And of course, you need to have great people. I'm very thankful all the folks at Poddster here, rock stars. If people give us 5-star reviews on Google, they always mention the team and the effort the team's making. So that's a big.
Because they are awesome.
Because they're awesome, yeah. I mean,
that's it.
One other thing that's also awesome, but is extremely boring, SOPs and doing things with a certain standard. So both me and my co-founder, we were like brutally obsessed with SOPs. If it's not somewhere written in an SOP, you don't have a business. If it's in your head and it depends on you being there, it's not a business. And the way we scale is like in the room, everything is prescribed. Like if you have 2 people on the set, this is how lights work. If you have 3, this is where cameras go. If you have everything in editing, in recording, in like everything is a number of SOPs. And when we learned that, then we realized, well, the tech that we have built for ourselves to power bookings, payments, file sharing, everything that we use is something that is IP. And we started getting pings from other studios across the world, which are like, hey, what are you guys using to run all this? Like, managing clients, booking themselves in, rescheduling, scheduling, all these other things. And we were like, yeah, we have our own stuff. Like, it's not Calendly. It's not like we are both tech guys. Like, I have 2 decades at Microsoft. My co-founder is a product guy, UX guy. So we built our own tech stack, and we decided to spin off. And when we spun off the product, we were initially, a few people approached us and say, hey, are you raising money? We can offer, angel investors. And we did that. But for many, we said, hold off. I want to see how it performs. Because I don't feel comfortable. I would have never raised money. Like I was in a corporate, like why raise money? So I was mainly trying to get people that wanted to give me money to back off because I haven't felt confident that I'll do something with their cash. When the thing started growing at the pace that we now have 100 studios across the world using it, where Stripe has just recently, Stripe Tour in Singapore, they've called us out as the fastest growing. They call it a vertical SaaS, focused on a very, very niche industry, without even being public in terms of, go launch big. We said, this is it. Like, we got to go all in on the industry. And again, on the back of the product, it's not just the product. What did I say before? How do you not become a commodity? Community. So we built a community of over 150 studio owners, which come together to ask each other questions that we here deal with every day. ISO files, how do you upload? Which products do you use to edit? All these things. On the back of the community and the growth of the product to run day to day, we are now in a position that, like, in 2 weeks from now, on 22nd of October, we have this big moment in New York where Stripe is funding and Microsoft's bringing speakers, and we have Gary V's head of content coming as well. Like, we have just achieved something that I would say is a moment for the industry, where they all come together to first learn from each other, but then second, learn about how to grow.
I have to say that our first episode, I asked you, how is to build something which is not product? You've been in software and tech industry for years, and you were like preaching, yeah, it's something that I can touch on. It's not a soft, but I knew that your second nature is going into tech, which is good.
When you asked me that in April, I was down. Like, product didn't work. It was buggy. It was like, full disclosure, it's recorded. But back then, we were actually talking to investors.
Okay.
And there are some that invested in Poddster, which asked for Podyx. And we openly told them, hold on. Like, we don't know where this is going to go because we had engineering problems. We had, a bunch of things. We didn't even know where the industry is going to head. Because one thing, we don't have AI, deep tech, or we're not building robots.
You're gonna have.
Well,
AI,
we will. But the moat now is first mover advantage, deep understanding of the industry. And we know, like, this industry has 3,000 studios roughly. We know each and every one of them. We have like a name of the person who owns the studio. We can target them directly. So we are probably as far as you can get in terms of connecting with all these companies and in the studio owners. And back then, it was kind of clunky. Now, I don't know what happened. At some point, like we got Gotham Studios New York, which is one of the speakers now in New York. We have Moon Miami.
I will tell you what happened. You're working very hard, man. It's consistency. You see problems, you evolve, and you create solutions. This is what happened. And you see a pain, and when you create something that market needs, you feel your pain while you are working.
Yeah.
This is the perfect product.
Yeah, I mean that's why we still run
It's
this.
not a magic.
It's not magic. I think the reason why we run this, it helps us keep the pulse on the industry because we know every time there's a pain here, we are thinking, how do I solve it with the tech stack? If I can't do it, then it's okay, then it's solved with cameras in the room. But if I can put that into the software, I know that others will have the same pain. And then because of the community, what we have now is like all these signals where people are complaining about the same things. This is a pain, this is a pain, this is a problem. We take all of that, we compare and we say, okay, let's triage, let's see what else should end up in the roadmap. And that's how it grew. But when you asked me that, when I was like, well, I don't know where this is going to head, I was more concerned if people are going to use it, if it has the right credibility. We were banking on the Poddster's credibility as one of the leading studios in the world. But I didn't know if that's enough. What ended up happening is not just Poddster, because in the States, people are like Poddster, Dubai, Singapore, who cares? But when you have a New York studio, when you have a studio in Miami, and you have like LA, Miami, New York, 3 key studios who are recording celebrities, actors, like all these people, then the smaller one starts to look. And I think it was more because we weren't sure where this is going to head. We just did exactly what you said. Me and my co-founder, on the call with each studio owner, talking through studio problems, not selling them software. So we were like, I remember, start Poddster here, 8, 9 a.m. meetings, all this, like Poddster related. 5 p.m. onwards, Podyx. And then calls with the States, 11 p.m., 11:30, midnight, and that's these connections, studio to studio owner, that helped. Because if I send a sales guy, they'd be like, you guys are not Calendly, you guys are not Acuity, Square doesn't own you, like you're just a random small startup. Yeah. But because they relate to you, tell them, like ask them, what's your biggest problem? They say, when people walk into a room and they haven't indicated how many mics they want. That's a pain. I have the same pain, right? That's why we started solutioning for it, in the software.
So where do you think this is all going to go for you guys? Like, how do you manage studios, software, the community?
Our biggest problem now is too many things. It's like, I think we're trying to prioritize in terms of what happens when and how, because there are certain things which are powerhouses, like an engine that pulls everything else. And Poddster is definitely adding credibility to the story. Podyx is something that's scalable and that can scale to, already 100 studios. We see 500 within 6 months or so, maybe slightly more. We see this as, you and I talked about venture studios and like venture,
building things
2 years ago, right? So a lot of times. What we see ourselves is like a mini venture studio which just operates within this very niche industry, where we have the Pod Spotters, which is the aggregator. Already SEO #1 in Paris, #1 in London, so all the studios can use that to get booked. Like when Podyx goes into 500 studios, that clicks together. Pod Heroes, the marketplace for podcasters selling their services, that clicks together as well. So it's like all these things combining become a nuclear weapon, right? The problem that we deal with here is now what's right in front of us and prioritizing on daily basis. What are the 3 things I need to do today? Because there are some things that can be left for like next quarter, the quarter after. What do I need to do today to make all this work? Because there's a sequence. If I jump the sequence, things will start to fall apart. So, and that's our challenge. There's 2 of us. We're running everything together. We have a team of maybe 50, 60 people, which is doing all of this, but spread across. Engineering spread across, running the studio spread across. So I think the focus is going to be like what I said. I wake up tomorrow morning and I focus on the few things that need to be done. Send emails to this, go talk to investors. Like we're still short maybe 150, 200, I think, for this round. So when we finish that race...
If you want to invest...
Yeah, you guys contact us on the emails on the channel.
Michael's taking.
I'm taking a vig.
The QR code is not for that.
So when we finish that, then next year, obviously, the raise is going to take longer time because it's going to be a bigger investor and so on. And that's important for the software side. Like obviously, that's how software businesses are being built. For studios, it's This is a very lean operation. It's high profits but it's capital intensive. Like building more of this, I told you about Saudi, huge opportunity there to build a bigger thing. There's a lot of different things, but if we end up spread too thin, things are not going to happen.
Could be dangerous.
Yeah. And there's not this industry doesn't have like crazy competition. There's no Starbucks that's coming after us, like Starbucks for podcasting studios or anywhere big yet. So it's important for us to make the right choices and the right moves, leverage on the New York and everything that's happening this month, and then take the next year to really solidify the position. Because in Dubai and Singapore, Poddster is already the main thing. Like there's nothing else, right? In other markets, if we decide to go with franchising and elsewhere other options, things will grow as well. But it's really how do you play the chess well that you don't lose the opportunity that you currently have.
Exciting.
Okay. How's about time?
Yeah, we need to get rolling.
Yeah, let's move.
Thank you, sir.